Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Senators and all in attendance will stand and be led in an invocation by the Honorable Jeremy S. McPike, 29th Senatorial District. Following the invocation, everyone will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Tara Perkinson, Chief Deputy Clerk, Virginia Senate Clerk's Office.
Thank you, Mr. President. The words offered this morning for prayer are from one of my heroes and someone that many of you knew and worked with as well, Father Jerry Creedon. Often his words were direct, sometimes tough, to the point. He was a longtime advocate in Virginia for social justice, equity, and fighting for those who did not have a voice. Let us pray. The Word that was made flesh and dwelled among us as representatives, our trade is in words. Words can be stones. Stones can injure and destroy. Stones are used to build walls, and walls can protect, but they also can divide. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Is it time to throw away stones, or is it time to use them to build a bridge of understanding? Lord, you are the Word. Send us a word that will heal, bring us a word that will unite, take away our hearts of stone, and give us hearts of flesh. And we say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk will call the roll. All those in attendance will please record their vote aye. Clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Wednesday, September the 2nd, 2020.
Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 4.
Ayes 31, noes 4. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate in the morning hour? Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, request that the journal reflect that the senator from Harrisonburg is away on pressing personal business.
Thank the senator. The journal will so reflect. Senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that the journal reflect that the senator from Washington County is away on personal and pressing business.
Thank the senator. The journal will so reflect. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Is there any other business to come in the morning hour? Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Maybe. Thank you. Mr. President, I ask that the journal reflect that the senator from Henrico is away from the Senate right now on pressing personal business.
Thank the senator. The journal will so reflect. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. After and the other senators want the journal to reflect a leave of absence for our colleagues, I would respectfully ask that we stand in recess for 15 minutes and that the Senate Republican Caucus retire to our tent. Our tent.
Thank the senator. Without objection, the Senate will stand in recess for 15 minutes.
Several people asked me if I should ask for an excuse, but she's coming.
If she's coming, then that's
She's
fine.
coming at 12.
She doesn't.
You're right.
Yeah. If she's not here by the time we adjourn, then you can do it at the end of the day. But,
She said she's coming. I'm going to call her now.
Clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Thursday, September the 3rd, 2020, uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 5082, a bill relating to certain hospices, home care organizations, private providers, assisted living facilities, and adult daycare centers, immunity from civil liability, COVID-19 emergency.
Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 5082 provides immunity for hospices, adult daycare, home health care workers, and assisted living facilities for situations where something goes awry, where they have been unable to procure the necessary equipment to do their jobs properly due to the pandemic and the supply shortage. It's for ordinary liability and not gross negligence, and I urge that the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 5082? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 5082 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 0.
Ayes 36, no 0. Senate Bill 5082 passes.
Senate Bill 5109, a bill relating to Commissioner of Health, Nursing Home, and Assisted Living Facility employees and residents, priority for testing COVID-19 pandemic.
Senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I move that the bill pass, and in support of that motion,
Senator, it's the floor.
I would say that this is a bill that simply makes our nursing homes and our assisted living facilities a first priority when it comes to the Commissioner of Health's determination of who gets tested for COVID-19. And I move that it pass. That is, as this body knows so very well, that is where we've had all of the deaths. Practically all of the deaths in the Commonwealth have occurred with our seniors and in those facilities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 5109? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 5109 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 0.
Ayes 36, no 0. Senate Bill 5109 passes.
Senate Bill 5031, a bill relating to legal holidays June 10th.
The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Well, the bill was pretty well explained. It's declaring June 19th a holiday. It's had no opposition so far. With that, I would move its passage.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 5031?
Mr. President.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
And I asked the gentlelady from Hampton this yesterday. I guess I directed to Senator Saslaw. If we add an additional holiday, and this seems like a good one to have, are we going to take off any holidays? In other words, are we making an extra day off from work? And if so,
I don't know.
Does anyone have an answer on that?
Senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw. All right, so anyone else?
Is that a yes or a no? I can't.
Senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
I don't think that's been brought up, Senator Peterson.
Okay, I don't want to stand in the way of the train here, but I'm just asking whether or not this is an additional holiday or whether or not we're replacing a holiday. That's the question.
Senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
There's been a plan to reduce one of the other, eliminate one of the other holidays. I don't know that's been planned.
The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank Thank you, Mr. President. I guess speaking to the bill and answering the senator from Fairfax's question.
Senator, the floor.
As the bill is drafted, it simply adds a holiday. It does not take any away. It basically codifies what happened this year through the governor's executive order and codifies it going forward.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph, rise?
Mr. President, after reading the financial impact statement, I think it probably would need to be updated because it's not kind of saying what the consistency of the members here are saying. So I think if we're going to do this, we may want to take it by for the day and look at having the impact statement reflect accurately the cost on the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas, rise.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I just moved that the bill pass by for the day.
Thank the senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 5031 will go by for the day.
Regular calendar, Senate bill on third reading, Senate Bill 5003. A bill relating to Commission on Civil Rights and Policing established report.
Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the bill pass. And speaking to that,
Senator, the floor.
Mr. President, what this bill does is it establishes a bipartisan commission which specifically would look at some of the policing techniques that we use in Virginia in regard to the civil rights that our citizens enjoy or maybe should enjoy. And I guess to give you some background on that, I've practiced law for 30 years in this Commonwealth. And during that 30 years, Mr. President, I've seen inequities in our system, whether those inequities are due to race, poverty, or the fact that we've just given our civil liberties away, this General Assembly over many, many years. I still believe we have the best system in the world, but I also believe that we can make it better. And what this commission is designed to do is to look at all of these matters. If you look at line 65, it starts at a variety of the things that the commission would look at. It is not designed to overlap or intrude on the crime commission. It's a completely different animal. But I think it's incumbent and important on all of us to try to make our justice system fair for every citizen. And so I think this is a step in that direction, and I hope everybody will support it. I've worked very hard with the gentlelady from Hampton, and she and I are co-patroning this bill together. I'm sorry she's not here today, but I hope everybody will support it.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 5003? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 5003 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 29, noes 7.
Ayes 29, noes 7. Senate Bill 5003 passes.
Regular calendar, House bill on second reading. House Bill 5103, a bill relating to the General Appropriation Act, appropriation of funds for the Department of Elections. Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 5025, a bill relating to Board and Commissioner of Health, emergency orders and regulations, duration. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, as we're continuing to work on this bill, I would ask that the bill go by for the day.
Thank the senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 5025 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 5050, a bill relating to parole, notice and certification, monthly reports, discretionary early consideration. Committee amendments have been rejected by the Senate, and there is a floor substitute.
Mr. President,
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
I ask that this bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 5050 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 5117, a bill relating to emergency services and disaster law, powers and duties of the governor, executive orders, penalty. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading. Senate Bill 5039, a bill relating to emergency services and disaster law, powers and duties of the governor, purchase of personal protective equipment during a disaster caused by a communicable disease, a public health threat. Senate Bill 5116, a bill relating to in-home consumer-directed services, electronics, visit verification exception. Senate Bill 5012, a bill relating to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Virginia Parole Board member votes. Memorial resolution. Senate Resolution 532, celebrating the life of the Honorable John Henry Hager.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully ask that that resolution be passed by for the day, sir.
Thank the Senator. Without objection, Senate Resolution 532 will go by for the day. Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Leave.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know she'll be here later in the afternoon, but let the journal reflect that my seatmate from Hampton, Senator Locke, is away on pressing personal business.
Thank the Senator. The journal will so reflect. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I inquire of the clerk, does that complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
We are, I know, very, very proud of all of the staff that services us here in the Senate. We've received many national awards, or they have, and I'd like to just let the members of the Senate know that the staff director of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee has just had a very important and impressive opportunity. She was selected by NCSL to be part of a leadership training conference, and of course I always thought it was misnamed because the people who were selected were actually at the tippy top in all the states on who really were the leaders, the staff leaders. So April Keyes participated in that and then was selected to give the valedictory for this class. So I am so proud of her, and I'm sure the rest of the Senate is too. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, as you know, we have gathered here over the past few weeks to, perhaps you could say, redress historical wrongs, to recognize historical omissions, and to set the record straight in Virginia. And that is an admirable goal. I congratulate the governor for bringing us back, and I'm glad we're here. And I think as a supplement, not as a contrast, but as a supplement, though, I think it's important to recognize what our state is today. Because it's not the same state that it was in the 1860s, and it's certainly not the same state it was even in the 1960s. This state has changed significantly. And I want to make that point more fine. There was a personal privilege that was given last week talking about Dr. King and his opinion on the war in Vietnam, which he had an opinion. It was probably a prevailing opinion amongst a lot of people. And there's Vietnam veterans within our body, so they obviously are going to have strong opinions. But, you know, we actually have a group of people that live in Virginia that have their own unique opinion. They're Vietnamese Americans. And we have so many people in this Commonwealth that have their own life story, their own narrative, that sometimes I feel like it gets subordinated when we just focus on certain issues. And I say that because I had dinner about a month ago with a client of mine and her husband. Her husband, by the way, you may guess, was a former Secretary of the Navy and a U.S. Senator representing Virginia. His wife was Vietnamese, is Vietnamese, and her family was from North Vietnam. They left in the 1950s when the communists took over, and if you were a Christian, if you were lucky, you were put in prison. If you were lucky. They fled down to South Vietnam and lived there until 75 when South Vietnam fell, and she recalled for me as a 7-year-old getting on one of those, what they call junks, those sort of floating ships, and floating off the coast, having no idea where they were going, and then being picked up by the U.S. Navy in a net and being hauled up onto that ship, and the feeling of relief that her family felt to see that U.S. Navy ship and to know that they had reached freedom. And then eventually came to the United States, obtained a law degree, and now lives in Northern Virginia, has children, and is married, and very, very fortunately for me, is one of my clients. And I mention this not because her story is unique. It's actually rather typical in Northern Virginia where I live. In this state that we have 660,000 Asian Americans as of the last census count, the next census count will absolutely be higher. Over 200,000 in Fairfax County. The Senate district that I represent is probably 1/4 Asian American. The majority of those speak a language other than English in the home. This could be whether it's everything from Bengali to Korean to Vietnamese to Chinese, Urdu, you name it. But the point being is that this state has changed radically. And sometimes when I listen to the debates, and again, the debates are wonderful, and the perspectives that people bring, I learn so much from it. But recognize, this state is changing under our feet. And sometimes we're talking about things and injustices that were real and salient and perhaps and certainly continuing to the present day. But we also have other populations that we're not recognizing, in my opinion, sufficiently. And I say this in this following context. I've been in this body almost 20 years, between this body and the body down the hall, or figuratively, down Broad Street might be more accurate. I think I participated in almost 1,000 floor sessions. Every floor session ends in honor of a person, typically someone that's deceased. I have never, in my recollection, can remember a single floor session that adjourned in honor of someone who's Asian American. And that's darn near 10% of our population. A couple years ago, the gentlelady from Petersburg challenged us, those of us who are Caucasian, to participate in Black History Month. And you know what? It was a homework assignment, and we got it off our butts, and we did it. I'm asking this assembly, not now, but when we come back in January, let's open those arms wide. Let's embrace Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, African Americans, people like myself, what have it. But just recognize this state's changing every day. Love it. Embrace it. Accept it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. For what purpose is Senior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Staff, rise?
Mr. President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, I've recently brought to light a number of vicious killers that the parole board has released back into the streets of the Commonwealth. I thought I'd take this moment to also point out the results of releasing these dangerous and violent felons. Mr. President, although Kareem Azuz Muhammad was sentenced to life for robbery and the use of a firearm, the parole board decided that he should be released back into our community. Why would they release a dangerous, violent felon back into our community to live amongst us and our children? It can't be that they've been rehabilitated. Mr. President, you see, in April, Muhammad committed a robbery of a convenience store after being released. Thankfully, our police officers stepped up and once again arrested Mohammed just 3 days later. And that should have been the end of it. Mohammed should have stayed in jail, at least until his trial. But that, of course, didn't happen. Under this governor, this administration, and the parole board, Mohammed was released again after just a short jail visit, only to commit yet another violent robbery that could have easily ended in innocent Virginians and children being seriously injured or killed. You see, in June, Mohammed committed an armed home invasion robbery while 2 children were present in the home. Once again, the police quickly responded and located Mohammed. He refused to stop for police and instead chose to flee with his own child in the back seat. Police were forced to engage in a dangerous vehicle pursuit, which ended when Mohammed crashed his vehicle into a state police vehicle and assaulted an officer. It clearly didn't matter that the parole board, the administration, or the governor, that 1 year before his release, the parole board denied parole because Mohammed's history of violence, the serious nature of the circumstances of his offense, his record of institutional infractions that indicated a flagrant disregard for the rules, and that he was not ready to conform to society. Remarkably, a year later, the parole board didn't feel any of these reasons were cause to leave him in prison. Mr. President, I ask you, why are we releasing violent felons back into our streets? Does having them back in our neighborhoods increase public safety? Do we really want these hardened prisoners, criminals, felons, who continuously break the law with us, with our children, and with our neighbors? The Virginia Parole Board's mission is clear: to grant parole to those offenders whose release is compatible, I say compatible, with public safety. Mr. President, it seems to me that the governor, the administration, and the parole board is failing Virginians. I ask you, Mr. President, what is it going to take to keep these horrible prisoners locked up in jail and our society safe? Thank you.
For what purpose is the senator from James City County, Senator Norman, rise?
A point of personal privilege.
Senator's the floor.
And mine is much more of a positive light. I was listening to the senator speak about the diversity and the ever-changing population of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And he mentioned it has been changing. One thing that has not been changed over the years, we in the Senate have been very blessed with outstanding and gentlemanly leadership. And on the calendar this morning is Senate Resolution 532, celebrating the life of the Honorable John Henry Hager. Due to administrative oversight on my part, it was on the calendar prematurely. I would like to list as co-chief patrons those of us who served under Lieutenant Governor Hager, and so if I could respectfully encourage Senators Howell, Lucas, Ruff, and Newman to be added as co-chief patrons, and then I'm going to respectfully solicit everyone else. John Edwards, respectfully solicit everyone else to be listed as a patron on that. So thank you, Mr. Senator. Excuse me, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Servell, rise?
Rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator's the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm also happy to be here doing what I think is some historic work. I think we're going to have a lot to celebrate once this special session is over, and I hope everybody's enjoying Richmond. I've been finding some new craft breweries I haven't been to. I got to run 4 miles yesterday with all the free time we had. But I also think we could be a little more efficient in how we're getting things done. You know, I also had a case I had to continue yesterday. I have a case on Friday I had to continue. Got a memorial service I'm supposed to be at this afternoon. You know, life is going on around us while we're down here doing this special session. And, you know, one of the things I appreciate about being in this body versus the other one I served in is that, you know, we tend to be, I think, more collaborative, more collegial. We tend to work with each other. I feel like this body is a little less partisan. And, but I'm a little bit worried about how this session's going. We're coming back tomorrow to consider one bill. one bill. It has to get out because of when the election's coming, but if we could waive read on that one bill, we could save taxpayers $40,000, and all of us could get back to our jobs and our families and our homes and get things done. And the more we engage in this type of behavior where we fail to waive reads on things which are pretty common sense, I think the more it sort of tends to make us like the other body that we try not to emulate. And so I would just simply ask you all to think about the spirit of the Senate, at least the Senate. I've been enjoyed to serve it now for 5 years. Think about the spirit of the Senate and how we're different and why we continue to, I think, try to make this session as inefficient as possible and cost taxpayers as much as possible when we could actually do some things to make this move a little better, save us all some time and money and effort. And while I appreciate, getting to go to the craft breweries at night, which I don't get to do at home, and go on my runs, which I usually don't have time for, it's really not best for the Commonwealth to operate this way. So I would just hope that we could maybe rethink some of that as we move to complete this session as soon as we can. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw, rise?
Just a kind of a quick personal privilege to follow up on.
Senator's the floor.
What you heard from Senator Peterson. Back in, it was in the 1950s, then Senator John F. Kennedy, later president, wrote a book called The Nation of Immigrants. And it pretty much spells out the history. And, and a lot of times I hear, and this has nothing to do with what we heard earlier, you see the demagoguery of people from foreign countries. And quite frankly, it's nothing short of disgusting. We are a nation of immigrants. In fact, my father was born in Russia, and the family came here in 1905. He was the youngest of 8. All that group that came, they all fought in World War I, and their children all fought in World War II. And almost a majority of the people who came here in that time period, back at the turn of the last century, they made up an extremely large portion of the people who fought these wars. There's never been an immigrant group that's come to this country that hasn't made us better for it, without exception. They add something, and generally it's a big plus. And they often take jobs that people who were here didn't want. And we need to understand that this isn't going to stop. This is a process that'll continue because we're the best country on the planet and people want to live here. So think about that. The next time you see some elected official, in either party demagoguing these people, quite frankly, they're know-nothings, and I pretty much guess that they probably come from an immigrant situation. I'm a first-generation American. I got to tell you something. I'm damn glad I wasn't born in the Soviet Union, and although some of you probably wished I had been, but anyway, this has just made us a better country for it, and we shouldn't forget it.
Thank the senator. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, before I present a question to Madam Clerk, I would say to the Senator Saslaw, it is still not too late to get a one-way ticket to Russia for you, sir. I have enough miles on my credit card to take care of that. So, my question is, are we scheduled to come in at noon tomorrow? Is that where we are?
Yes, sir.
Is there any reason that we cannot come in earlier?
There is.
Do you know what it is? I withdraw my question.
Thanks, Senator. For purpose, Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards, rise.
Mr. President, following up on what the senator from Fairfax City and the senator from the senior senator from Fairfax talked about, namely the immigrants in our country, Roanoke is a very diverse community. We have, for probably 20 years or more, we celebrated every May one weekend that was called Local Colors. We have well over 100 different groups from other countries living in the Roanoke area. Many languages. The restaurants are fantastic. If you like Indian foods, fantastic. The list goes on and on of how diverse the Roanoke area is. And the person that started this, Local Colors, as it was called, starting about 1990, was Pearl Fu from China. Her ancestry is from China. A minority group from China. And I believe her father was the equivalent of like a governor of a part of some province in southern China. And she came to this country, and she loved this country so much and loved the Roanoke area so much, it was her idea to have a Local Colors. And once a weekend in May, we would gather downtown at the market, and the people from different countries would have booths, and they had food, they had costumes, we had ceremonies, they had dancing, they had singing, they had all sorts of activities of all these different groups in the Roanoke area. It's been wonderful for Roanoke. And because of that, we've attracted so many wonderful people from other parts of the world. It may surprise you to know that this country, indeed, as John Kennedy said, was founded by immigrants. You know, when the Jamestown settlers showed up, there are probably 500 different languages, Native American languages throughout the country. I don't know how many tribes, but there were just at least 500 languages. Most of them, none of them, I think, at the time were ever in writing. And so we've lost so much of that. But some of these Indian tribes retained the language of their particular tribes. It may surprise you to know that in 1776, July the 4th, the Declaration of Independence was adopted and signed. Would you know that the first printing of the Declaration of Independence, you know the language? It was German. The first language the Declaration of Independence was printed in, the very next day, July the 5th, was German, because so many Germans lived in the Philadelphia area, and especially the western part of Philadelphia, going west of Philadelphia. Probably a third of the people in Pennsylvania were German, and they only spoke German. And the very next day, it was in English, July the 6th. They printed it in English as well, by the way. But it would surprise people to know that that was really the first language the Declaration of Independence was printed in. It's an obscure fact. And our country, again, is more people have come to our country in waves. In Minnesota, it's most Scandinavian. You know, Wisconsin, German. The Valley of Virginia is predominantly German and Scotch-Irish. If you go up and down the Valley of Virginia, you find more Presbyterian churches, and you find people from the southern Germany, the Mennonites, Brethren, the Moravian, and so forth, all up and down the Valley of Virginia. It's kind of interesting to know that the English settlers went about as far as Albemarle County. Peter Jefferson, Tom Jefferson's father, and they stopped at the Blue Ridge Mountains. And there's a reason for that. The Native Americans are hard to deal with. And we had, the French and Indian War during that time period. But what the settlers decided, the English settlers decided to do, they knew that the Scotch-Irish were tough fighters. Jim Webb wrote a book called Born Fighting. It wasn't about him, it was about his ancestors, the Scotch-Irish. In fact, the Scotch and the English have been fighting for centuries. And so they're tough guys to deal with. So the Native Americans, the settlers, the English settlers, decided what they would do is invite the Scotch-Irish to settle in the Valley of Virginia, to be a buffer. with the Native Americans who were hard to deal with at the time. And so that's one reason why. And also from Pennsylvania, the Germans trickled down the Valley of Virginia down to North Carolina. Daniel Boone and his ancestors, they were of German ancestry. So the Valley of Virginia is German, it's Scotch-Irish, and whatever. But our country is changing a lot. Virginia is changing a lot, and all for the better. And we should praise that. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, September the 3rd, the Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet 15 minutes after adjournment. Finance and Appropriations, 15 minutes after adjournment. And the public can view this meeting on the General Assembly website.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate will stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow. German.